Hello guys, it's Austin from Jones Bros Garage, and I'm back again today for another video, except this time I'm naked from the waist down. So today we're going to be talking about the Ruroc Atlas 2.0. And first off, I'd like to say I'm sorry I haven't posted in a while. It's been roughly 2 weeks. I've been really busy, but I do intend to post weekly, and I'm going to get back on track with that. So I'm back. And like I said, today we're talking about a helmet. This bad boy right here, my Ruroc Atlas 2.0. And if you haven't heard of Ruroc, which if you watch YouTube videos you probably have, because there's a lot of these helmets floating around and they're starting to gain popularity. But if you don't watch a lot of YouTube or videos on gear, you might have never heard of Ruroc, because they don't sell in stores. They're an online only brand, and they were founded in 2007, and they actually started as a snowboarding brand. I originally found them through Instagram because I saw, I'm into snowboarding, and I saw some posts of their snowboarding helmets. But they eventually released motorcycle helmets, and they came out with the Atlas, the first Atlas. And I never tried that one, but this is the Atlas 2.0, and supposedly they've improved on a lot of things, so we're going to go ahead and check it out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and break this puppy out of the box. And now keep in mind, I've been wearing this helmet. This isn't an official unboxing because obviously I needed to wear the helmet to review it. But I just wanted to show you guys how it comes packaged. You got this this big box. It's just cardboard. And inside you get your helmet. It's in this nice dust bag. And they also come with a second visor, a tinted visor. And that has its own little dust bag as well. And I also purchased the Shockwave, which comes in this nice little box. And I've already installed this. I'll show that to you guys. You just unscrew a little screw in the back, and this piece right here comes out, and the Shockwave replaces it. But I'll go ahead and show you that later. And then you just get some little odds and ends. I also got the pin lock, so it came with a little flyer and some stickers, of course, and some information about the helmet. Pretty decent packaging though. Let's go ahead and take a look at the helmet. So I ordered the Atlas 2.0 in Velos, which is the Italian colorway because it matched the Ducati. And they have some really cool colorways on this helmet. And you can see, aesthetically, it's a really aesthetically pleasing helmet. That's one of the big perks of this helmet over something like an Arai, is it's a lot prettier. It even has that little spoiler in the back, almost like the some of the AGVs have. But it's just an all-around good, clean look. And we'll go ahead and get into it. So I'll just start off by saying, I wasn't paid to do this review. I wasn't sponsored by Ruroc or anything like that. So this is a completely honest review, and I'm going to tell you my honest opinions on this helmet. Now, the first thing I wanted to mention is, with this whole coronavirus thing, these helmets have been delayed. So I waited quite a while for mine, and it was originally supposed to have a matte finish, but they sent me an email and told me, it's going to be glossy due to quality control, something along those lines. But I went ahead and stuck with it because, like I said, Ruroc is a small company. They really haven't been around all that long, and I wanted to support them, so I stuck with my order, and I'm glad I did because it really is a great helmet. So we'll just start off by talking about the cost. So this helmet, the Ruroc Atlas 2.0, they range from $420 to $575. And they're all the same functionally and structurally. The only difference is the finish. Some of the finishes cost more than others. And that is the one thing about these helmets, is some of the finishes are so cool. Like, look at that. That is a perfect match for a Ducati. They have a ton of cool finishes, including, you know, just carbon fiber, because we'll get into it, but this helmet is a carbon fiber shell, which is pretty impressive. Now, if you want to get additional visors, that's another $50 for a visor. And you really don't need to buy another visor. The only reason would be aesthetics, because it does come with a tinted visor and a clear. I usually tend to run a clear. And it's $25 for the pin lock insert as well, which in my opinion is well worth it. Now I have my pin lock installed. Yeah, you guys can see it kind of snaps on in here. And the pin lock, like I said, it's an additional $25, but this thing does not fog. Even, I'll just try right now. Yeah, see, even just breathing on it, it's not going to fog. I've been riding with my visor completely closed, even sitting at stoplights, and it doesn't fog, and all my other helmets do, so that's pretty impressive. And now you could get an auto tint pin lock, where you could basically put it in any of your helmets or in a clear, and it'll automatically tint, and that's $95. And then the Shockwave audio system, which is integrated into the back, that's another $150. And we'll go ahead and cover everything I just mentioned. So we'll just begin by talking about the helmet itself. And according to Google, the helmet is 3.39 pounds without the Shockwave and 3.56 with the Shockwave. And, you know, that's very light. That's extremely light. And the thing that's nice about having such a light helmet is when you ride for long periods of time, it's less fatiguing on your neck. And the other thing that I'm going to touch on has to do with safety. You know, the weight of a helmet is actually a pretty big deal when it comes to safety. If you have two helmets of the same, you know, structural strength, and one's 4.5 pounds and one's 3.5 pounds, you're better off going down with the helmet that's 3.5 pounds because it's going to put less strain on your neck. So as far as safety goes, having such a light helmet is great. And they were able to achieve that because they used T300 aerospace grade carbon fiber for the shell of this helmet, which is pretty impressive for a small company to do at this price point, and is one of the main reasons I picked the helmet up. Now, you could get the carbon finish, just a gloss over the carbon, and that looks pretty sweet. But comparing the weight to something like an Arai Quantum X, an Arai Quantum X weighs 3.69 pounds. So this is even lighter than that. And new for new, straight from the manufacturer, these retail for about $200 less than the Arai. The reason that I compare this to the Quantum X is because you can find new Quantum X helmets around this price point if you look hard enough. So I think it's a pretty good comparison. But yeah, this is lighter than an Arai. And my brother rides with an Arai, and I've worn it. And I don't know specifically what model he has, but it is heavier and it does get fatiguing. So I can appreciate the lightness of this helmet. If you've ever had a heavy helmet, you'll understand what I mean, especially if you ride sport bikes, when I say that this is nice. Like, this helmet seriously is light, and it's hard to convey over camera how light it is. You really just have to feel it for yourself. So speaking of safety, this helmet is DOT and ECE 22.05 certified. Now what that means, honestly, is not much. I'd rather have a helmet that's Snell. DOT, in my opinion, and many people's opinions, if you actually do the research, is pretty much useless. You know, it doesn't, and ECE is better, but it still doesn't show what the helmet's going to do in a real world crash. You know, ECE and DOT testing is really focused on specifics, like specific impacts, not like in the real world where you're going to go down, you know, and the helmet's going to roll and different things happen. So the testing and the certifications on this helmet, they're not the highest, but the carbon shell, and it has these emergency liners in it too, which is another good perk. Because if you go down, you're not really supposed to just rip the helmet off of somebody who's been down. You kind of have to, you don't want to pull on their neck or anything. So you could pull these right out, and they come out really easily because I had to pull them out to install my my Shockwave. So I can confirm that these work well, and that's a nice little feature. But all in all, I'd say I trust this helmet, and I wouldn't ride with a helmet I don't trust. So if I was going to put money into a helmet this pricey or at this price point, obviously I'm going to buy a helmet I trust, and I have faith in this helmet. Now, as far as the fitment goes, this helmet is made for an intermediate oval shaped head, and it fits my head pretty well. However, I used the sizing guide, and it is a tiny bit large on me, and I was kind of right between the medium and small points, and I just went with the small, and it still does feel maybe a little bit large. So, you know, maybe the head shape's not necessarily the best for me, but it still is a decent fit. But the thing is, that's one of the downsides about an online-only manufacturer. You can't go to the store and try it on, obviously. So you have to use their charts and just order it. And for me, the chart wasn't necessarily super accurate, unfortunately. But the thing that's cool about Ruroc is that they'll replace it with a different size, free of charge. They'll even pay for your shipping. So that's not really a concern. If you're worried about that, you know, you don't really need to, because if the helmet's the wrong size, you could just send it back free of charge and get a replacement. Now, for the build of this helmet, as I mentioned, it's T300 aerospace grade carbon fiber, the whole shell, which obviously, as I mentioned, makes it very light. And it is very nice. The whole helmet in general feels pretty high quality, especially this visor. You know, I've watched other reviews where people have said mixed things. They said good or bad about the visor, but I personally like the visor. It has some nice firm clicks. The first click is about right here. Then you got another click right there, another click, and that's all the way up. So you got a couple clicks, but for me, that's all I really need. And it is nice and smooth. It doesn't feel cheap. And once you get past that first click, it kind of snaps in. And you can see it's not locked yet, but it's really easy to push onto that lock, and it's actually equally as easy just to pop right off. So the visor design is great. As for removing the visor, you got, try to get this in focus. You got these little things right here that you can just turn with your hands. You don't need any tools. And I'll go ahead and show you guys. So you just turn this little thing right there, and you get this little piece that pops out, and then your visor pops off, and it has this little piece attached to it, and that slides off. And then to put it back on, same thing. You just line it up, put your pin back in, and turn it, and boom, just like that, it's all back together. And now I've had various different helmets, and honestly, I could say the visor removal and the whole visor in general on this helmet, I like probably more than any helmet I've ever owned. So the visor's very nicely done. Now the interior of the helmet, I'm sure you guys probably aren't going to be able to get a good look at that, but it's a little rough. It's a little bit coarse. It's not, like if you've ever worn an Arai helmet, it's kind of like a pillow on your head. It's very soft and plush and comfortable. You don't really get that with this helmet, to be honest. And don't get me wrong, it's comfortable, but the inside padding, it's definitely a little bit coarse and gritty. Now, I don't have any pressure points with this helmet or anything like that. It's perfectly comfortable for me. It's just a little nitpicky thing that if you're going to spend money for a premium helmet, this does not have that, you know, nice pillowy feel that some of the other premium helmets have. But what this does have that's very interesting is what they call the fidlock clasp. And now, as you guys can see, get it in focus there, we got this little clasp system, and right now it's latched, and no matter how hard I pull on this, it's not going to come unlatched. I mean, I've pulled very hard and it doesn't come undone. But as soon as you pull this little red tab, it'll go ahead and unlatch. And then to relatch it, you just stick it back on and then boom. So basically, you know, I ride a lot with groups, and sometimes my friends get their helmets on quicker than mine, and I'm fiddling with gloves, and sometimes some of my friends don't wear gloves, and it gets frustrating. But with this, it's nice and easy, you know, with gloves on, off. And I was really skeptical about this when I watched reviews online, because I was worried, you know, what if you go down and this pulls apart? Then, you know, the helmet's pretty much useless. But guys, I'm telling you right now, I've put a lot of force, like a lot of force on this, trying to pull it apart. And it's not coming apart. Now, the field of view you get out of this helmet is incredible. That's another thing, you know, the field of view that I get out of this helmet is better than probably majority, if not all, of the helmets I've ever worn. It does have a nice big visor. You can see the way it's designed. You have an amazing field of view. And as for vents, you have 6 in, 6 out. You have a lot of vents, and you could open and close the vents. There's these little tabs inside, and it's actually really easy and convenient. But the downside to having so many vents is that the helmet could get a little noisy. And now I've heard mixed reviews on this too, where people have said it's not too noisy, and people have said, yeah, it is noisy. And I'm going to say, you know, my opinion, I think it is a little noisy, especially when you get up at higher speeds. And I'm talking on a full fairing sport bike. So if you're riding like a naked bike, yeah, it's going to be a little noisy. And that's just a side effect of having so many vents. But at the same time, there's so much airflow through this helmet. On a hot day, it's really nice to have the vents. And I would honestly take the vents over having a quieter helmet. And you combine that with how light it is and the great field of view, and you know, the noise isn't really that big of a deal. It's not like really horrible compared to other helmets. I'm just saying it's definitely not as quiet as something like an Arai would be. I'd also like to add one more thing. It does have this little piece right here, this little chin guard or whatever they're called. I forget what they're called. Let me know in the comments below what this thing is called, because I forget. But that does help a little bit with the wind noise, and it helps deflect some of the wind. Okay guys, so now that I've covered all of that, that brings me to the Shockwave system. And now this is the Shockwave system, and when you buy your helmet, if you buy the Shockwave, you get a little screwdriver, and you can see there's just a little screw right over here and a little screw right over right here. And those two screws are it. You just unscrew a little flat piece right here, and this Shockwave slides right in. And now you run the wires, you take all the padding out of the helmet, and this has everything attached to it. You attach everything to this. So this slides in, and then all of your 2 speakers, and it has a microphone, they all slide behind these pads. And behind these pads, that's what's nice about having a helmet designed for an integrated sound system. They have little slots for the speakers, and they tuck away nicely, so you're not going to get any pressure points or anything like that. And even the microphone has its own little slot. Then you just run all those wires up and tuck them into a hole back here, and it's all hidden under the padding, and it's actually hidden nicely, so you're not going to feel any of it. It doesn't cause any bulging or anything. For example, if you have a helmet that wasn't designed for audio, and you add a Sena and you put the speakers in, sometimes you could get hot spots or pressure points. But with this helmet, it's designed to be integrated, and it all fits seamlessly. As far as the noise of this thing and the stock speakers that come with it, they're loud. they're pretty loud, and they sound pretty good too. They're actually pretty quality speakers, I'd say. and they do help compensate a lot for the wind noise. In fact, you know, I'm the kind of person, I know it's bad and I'm damaging my hearing, but a lot of the times when I'm listening to audio through something like this or like through cheap earbuds, I have them turned up all the way just because I like to crank my music. And on this, I actually can't turn it up all the way. It's kind of uncomfortable because it really is just that loud. So you are going to get the level of sound that you want just out of the stock speakers on this, which is nice. Now, I don't know if it's just me, and I'm not going to say 100% that it's the Shockwave's fault or anything. I really don't know what's causing it, and I haven't looked into it yet. But when I connect my phone with Bluetooth, it seems to have like a lag in the connection sometimes. And what I mean by that is I'll be listening to a song and it'll like skip or like stutter and cut out. And I don't know why. Like it seems like it's not making like a clean Bluetooth connection with my phone. And I don't know if that's a problem with Atlas's software, and honestly I'm going to go ahead and assume it is. Because, you know, I have a newer iPhone, obviously. It doesn't have that problem with any other speakers or anything I connect it to. It's only with the Shockwave, so I'm going to assume that's on Atlas. The Shockwave is rated for 8 hours of audio, and it's very easy to charge. You get a charger with it, obviously, and you just have this little port right here. And so you don't have to take it off or take it out of your helmet. You could just basically plug your whole helmet in. It does support hands-free phone calls, which is also nice, and I haven't tried that yet, but I'll have to let you guys know how that works. Honestly, with the way that it's been working with my music, I'm going to say it's probably not going to be the best with hands-free phone calls, if I'm being blatantly honest. And I don't necessarily know that the Shockwave was worth $150. There might be software updates, and, you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me and mine's just faulty, or, you know, maybe it's just something wrong on my end, but it is a little stuttery with the audio, and it's not a clean Bluetooth connection. So that's my opinion on the Shockwave. That was my review on the Ruroc Atlas 2.0, and I know it wasn't the most in-depth and it wasn't super specific, but I touched on some points that I don't think other people necessarily have, or points that I thought were important. And that's just my initial review. I know that a lot of people were sent Atlas 2.0s to give a review, so I thought I would just give my unbiased, unpaid opinion and go ahead and tell you guys what I think of it. And honestly, I do think it was worth the money, and I do like the helmet a lot. If you're looking to buy a helmet for comfort, I think it really kind of is a toss-up, because it's not as comfortable as some other helmets like Arai models as far as the interior goes, but it is lighter, so there's less strain on your neck, and that in turn makes it more comfortable. So it's kind of a toss-up. For me, I'd rather have the lightweight helmet than have the nice soft insides. And if you're crafty, or if you want to take the time, you could redo or replace the insides or make custom, but you can't take something like a 4-pound helmet and just get a grinder and shave it down to 3 pounds. You know, that's not something that you can change. So I personally like my Ruroc over other helmets, and I do not regret buying it. I actually really enjoy it, and I think people should support Ruroc because, you know, they're still a small company, technically, kind of. They're not as big as the giants like Arai and AGV. If you guys like my video, then go ahead and leave a like and give that subscribe button a little finger action, because that's the #1 way you could support me and my channel and my content, and I really do appreciate it. If you guys have an opinion on the Ruroc Atlas 2.0, you know, if you own one or you're thinking about buying one, or maybe you own a different helmet in this price point, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you guys and see what you guys think about it. And I answer all my comments, so if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask, and I will answer them. Thank you guys for checking out my video.